is 2020. It is late March, and England has been plunged into its first lockdown. You have yet to discover the wonders of historical sewing and cos-tube. That will come later in the year. And you have not yet taken to copious day drinking to while away the hours. That will also come later in the year. As such, you have nothing to do. Until one fortuitous day, our favourite fairy godparent, Nintendo, bestows upon us the most perfectly timed gift in all of history. Animal Crossing: New Horizons. This light-hearted piece of escapism is the perfect distraction from the real world and gives you something wholesome, creative, and completely addictive to consume your every waking lockdown hour. There is, however, one aspect of real life that you seemingly cannot escape, even within the confines of this innocuous sandbox game. That is, of course, crippling debt. And you finance this debt with bells, the in-game currency that you carry around in these adorable little pouches that look somewhat like the reticules used in the Regency period? Oh yes, we're doing this. The pattern I'm using is from Jane Austen Embroidery by Jenny Batchelor and Alison Larkin. As I don't have a printer, I have to draw the circular pattern pieces using pencil tied to a bit of string, and let me tell you, it is awful. I'm using this golden coloured silky fabric, which is very thin and floaty, so I'm going to back it with some lightweight iron-on interfacing to give it some body. This actually ends up being too crispy, so let's scrap that idea. Clearly didn't iron it on properly anyway. Instead, I'm going to flatline it with this cotton calico, thread marking all of the lines on the pattern piece before cutting out the fabric and removing the tissue paper. Hiya, just thought I'd nip on here quick to explain my thought process. I've got the whole thing cut out now. It looks like a very nice placemat because it's all frilly at the edges where it's been running stitched, but you know, no one will know. All of these running stitches will come out anyway because they're only temporary. So I've got the main fabric on the outside, I've got the interlining, which is just some white cotton, and I was going to do the lining as just the same like brown cotton that I'm going to use for the little star on the outside, but because this is so shiny and nice, I'm a bit obsessed with it, I'm going to make this bougie as f and use this like wine red velvet velour. It is stretchy. And I know stretchy fabric is a bugger to work with, but I have just enough of this. This is left over from many years ago. I don't even know what I made from this. So I'm going to use this as the lining. I just feel like that these colours together are going to look like some Beauty and the Beast royal loveliness, which is totally inappropriate given that this is Regency and not the 18th century, but never mind. Also, quick aside, the materials I'm using here, obviously this lining is cotton. I say obviously, because it's obvious to me because I bought it. I don't actually know what this is, but given how cheap it was per metre, I am guessing it's not real silk. I don't think Hobbycraft carry real silk. And this as well, I've got this years ago. Both of these are probably polyester based, plastic based, and it saddens me a little bit because I am at heart an environmentalist, but also I'm incredibly poor right now. Like, having to contend with the fact that you have a hobby that kind of is really expensive, but keeps you mentally sound while also having like very little disposable income is, well, sometimes you have to make concessions. And my concession at the moment is in favour of my purse and in favour of continuing to be able to pay the rent. So, no shade, no shame if you too have to use synthetics. I know it's not great for the environment and we should be aiming towards stuff that is better for the environment, but we're also poor and we need things to feed our mental health in the sense that it'll make it good, not in the sense that it'll make it worse. So, yes. After cutting out the main pattern pieces, I can transfer the pattern markings onto the inner pocket piece using a long running stitch. I need to attach interfacing in the centre, making sure this one won't just peel off. As I'm making the star applique with a woven cotton, I've applied interfacing to this too, to strengthen it and keep it from fraying. And that's all the pattern pieces prepared and ready for stitching. First, I need to stitch together the 2 pocket pieces. I'm using a running back stitch, making sure to leave a hole for turning inside out. I want to do this whole project by hand, to preserve at least some of the history of the reticule. Now the piece is turned inside out and the hole is slip stitched shut, I'm back stitching it to the lining along the lines I thread marked earlier. It has to be right in the centre of the lining, or at least that's the goal. So I haven't done all of this. I've sewn the inner circle and 2 of these little side bits for the pockets, and just laying it out on the floor to see how it looks. And it is so off centre, it's not even funny. So I'm gonna have to unpick this and put it in the actual middle, because that is gonna drive me mental. Good enough. So I didn't film me doing this stitching because by like the 5th attempt of getting this to be in line and roughly in the centre of the circle, I was so frustrated and so desperate to just get it sewn on that I just went ahead and did it by hand and didn't film it. Oh, hello. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Buzz. No, not that one, sweetie. Not that one. Go on. Go on. You're very cute, but no. Yeah, I was just so desperate to get it that I did it without filming it. But never fear. There is plenty more hand stitching to go. Theoretically, if I can get the project away from Buzz. Of course, that's a perfect place to lie down. So for the last, like, I don't know how many months, every so often I will do this smile. You know, you do that, like, and I think it's because of lockdown, just being inside all the time, not seeing anyone, I kind of forgot that certain things aren't really socially acceptable, or just not necessarily socially unacceptable, just incredibly unattractive. And this is, and I mean, this is one of them. And I looked at myself in the mirror doing it the other day. I was like, I look like someone. Who do I look like? And I just clocked. I look like Granny Riddleton from Professor Layton games. And I've just Googled her. And I'm even wearing the yellow jumper. I mean, there's no point in me showing this because I can just pop it up on the screen, but oh my god, I am her. This is my future. This is I am destined to go around strange, miscellaneously European towns collecting puzzles and apparently not having any upper lip. Oh, maybe I should do a Granny Riddleton outfit. this one I did with doubled up thread, and I did the stitches a lot wider, and obviously this one I did with a single thread and a lot narrower. And yeah, I think we can see how that turned out. I mean, there's a little bit wonky and not quite perfect, and then there's the secret relative who we keep locked in the bell tower. I'm getting the sense that this project is very much a learning opportunity on many counts. So, slight issue. I'm at my mum's at the moment for the bit between Christmas and New Year, and I didn't bring any brown thread with me, which is kind of what I need for applique. I mean, ideally I need like thick brown thread. I planned to do it with embroidery thread, and I have the perfect shade for it, but I don't have that with me. And I'm not going back for another 3-4 days, and ideally I really want to get this done before then. Well, I shall raid my mum's sewing box and see if she has anything, and if not, we might have to venture into the outside world. Although, like, I'd really rather not, because, and this sounds really stupid, but I didn't bring any makeup with me back home. And does anyone else have, like, if you live further away from where you grew up, when you go back to the place where you grew up, are there like multiple people who you really don't want to bump into, especially not looking your best? Is that just me? We'll see what we can find in mum's sewing box. I think we're gonna have to brave the outside world. But you are staying here because I hate vlogging in public. I've tried it and it makes me so self-conscious, especially if I'm gonna bump into people from my old school days. We're back, and we not only have the right colour brown embroidery thread, we've also got a better colour of thread for the actual that, and a teeny tiny embroidery hoop, so that it'll give us a little bit more control over this embroidery. I also, when I was in town, got vegan Worcester sauce, which is not relevant to this project, but is relevant to my tomato soup recipe. Okay, I know this is like almost a bit of a trope at this point when it comes to cats, but entire squishy comfy bed with nothing else on it, or sewing kit, including scissors. Which would you rather sit on? I know, you're a little weirdo. I just need these, okay, okay, thank you. I'd use my seam rubber here, but you know, it's under the cat. Bye, sweetie. I will have to extract that sewing kit from underneath you, but you know, you're just too cute to disturb at the moment. Yeah. Oh, yep, those are claws. Oh, God. Ah, Christ. You little munchkin. Oh. It's time to fold over and pin the hem. Now I know this looks really wobbly and untidy, but just trust the process. Making snips in the seam allowance allows the fabric to overlap itself, so it lies flatter than it would do otherwise. Making snips in the seam allowance allows the fabric to overlap itself, so it lies flatter than it would do otherwise. Yes, I did accidentally push the needle under my thumbnail at one point while doing this, and now I can't watch this clip without feeling a bit queasy. So this is now all basted and pressed, and I'm so happy with how the edge is looking. This is gonna sound really dumb and obvious, but it's amazing what a difference it makes when you take time and care over something. I never used to bother with things like basting. I used to think it was pointless, like why baste when you can just use pins, but it makes a huge difference in just holding something down so you can do whatever the hell you want with it and it will still stay in that position. But yeah, just taking a little bit of time and doing these sort of extra steps by hand, I think is really going to make the difference. And it's it's going to be a strange like dichotomy of places where I've actually taken time and care and done things properly, and then places where I've just kind of made do and I've rushed and it looks kind of bad. I mean, luckily this bit will be on the inside, but I feel like I'm having all sorts of craftsmanship epiphanies during this project. Here, I'm thread marking the lining so that I know where to fold the hem, and then just repeating the same process that I did for the outer layer. Now I've pinned the two pieces together, I'm removing some of the basting stitches and attaching the pieces with a whip stitch. There's a lot of basting to remove in this project. I'm using a back stitch to sew the channel for the drawstring, and unfortunately this pushed some little red floofs from the velvet through, so now it looks really messy. I officially hate velvet. So to add to the list of small but annoyingly noticeable issues with this project, where I had basting stitches in here when I folded the edge of this over, they left little holes. And normally, when I've poked a hole with a pin, I can use the same pin to just sort of like stroke the fabric and move the holes. And I did try this with my fingernail, as was suggested online, but it left these weird marks. They almost look like watermarks, but it was just from pressing too hard with my fingernail, so that's not going to work. Another thing online suggested steam, which I may try next. I think the issue was that when the basting stitches were put in, I then pressed it to get this edge flat. So we shall try steam. Otherwise, I mean, basically at this stage it's like polishing a potato, but polish it we will. So steam pressing did actually do wonders. I mean, you can still see the holes, but only if you're really looking for them, and it's a lot flatter, obviously. I was on a Zoom Q&A session the other day that was sewing related. Somebody said in the chat, I think that the phrase, "have you pressed it yet?" is like the sewer's equivalent to, "have you tried turning it off and on again?" And you know what? I'm inclined to agree. To insert another length of cord through the other half of the circle and then secure the ends. I've done this by stitching a rectangle of red felt around the ends and then topping it with an oval shape. And that's it, we're done. Here it is in all its glory, fit to hold all my bells and be a stylish accessory for the Netherfield ball. Tom Nook could never, am I right? I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out, despite the, pitfalls we faced along the way. Turns out this potato could be polished. Also, if you want to see how I made this Animal Crossing necklace, let me know in the comments. I will see you next time for more chats, more crafts, all that good stuff. Bye!